Mixing is really, really difficult, and over the years I have driven myself to near insanity trying to get music to where it should be in a mix. It's a strange graph in my head that goes from sounds like crap all the way up to it's correct and the jigsaw piece has slotted in and everything is working and everyone breathes a massive sigh of relief. But the journey from there to there has taken tens of thousands of hours and many moments of pain and suffering. So today, hopefully I can help guide someone or give someone some inspiration or food for thought. I'm going to be breaking down a track that I co-produced and mixed from the brilliant Toby Catt. This is a straight up indie pop banger. I'm going to be talking a lot about my psychology and philosophy of mixing, but also getting into the weeds with compression, EQ, distortion, multiband compression, all of the usual good stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you get something from this. So let's get into the session. Okay, so here we are in the session. I'm just going to play you a little bit of the chorus just so you can get an idea of the vibe of the track. Here's the final chorus. So this is where everything's in. Have a listen.
I like drinking, little smoking, I like dancing alone under the sun, and I see double of the same thing. I'll be drinking double what I should be. I like drinking, little smoking, I like dancing alone under the sun, and I see double of the same thing. I'll be drinking double what I should be.
So it's a really sunny, vibrant track, and Toby is just so great. He's so talented. His voice is just wonderful. His guitar playing is brilliant too. I'm just going to jump into the vocal to start with. So we'll start with just breaking down the raw vocals, so no plugins on, and then we'll gradually, bit by bit, start adding plugins, and I'll start talking to you about what each one's doing and why I chose them in the order that they're in. Right, so here we are. This is the raw vocal with absolutely nothing on it at all, just straight recorded from the mic. I think it was actually this mic, Sontronics Orpheus, I believe. So let's have a listen.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past. To take a look and read a book.
So when I was on my quest to try and figure out how to be a better mix engineer, I signed up to loads of the main websites, Pure Mix, Mix with the Masters, all of these guys, and I gained so much knowledge from them. But what was rarer to find on those sites is a vocal that isn't recorded that well. And I recorded this vocal, but we were rushing. The vibe was happening, so we just stuck the mic up, we recorded it. It probably wasn't the best position. I want to talk to you about what I hear with this vocal and where the problems are. When I first started mixing, when I'd hear a vocal like this, it would just sound amateurish in its recording. It would sound not complete. It would sound not like that polished sound that I was hoping to get from all those records that I love. So the first thing that jumps out to me is that it's got this kind of nasally, bassy, uneven, muffled sound to it. Also, the S's are jumping out too much. It sounds a bit heady. It sounds like there's a little bit of a room tone going on that's not quite working. So these are all things that we can fix. The first thing that I did was I started to manually de-ess. So with de-essers, I don't know if I haven't researched them enough or I haven't come across the right one that does everything yet. So I manually go in and dip every single S just with volume.
Bounces off my glass.
And I think my philosophy behind this is to have a gentler curve, so the first part of the S jumps out, so you get this, but then the body of it is dipped, so all of that energy there, all of that S energy is dipped down, and it doesn't jump out and sound awful when you start adding EQ and compression. So I went through the whole track and I did every single S meticulously, and although it looks like a lot, it doesn't take that long. I mean, it's like there's not a huge amount. I mean, there's the double tracks down here which start adding up because you're having to do two instead of one. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but I found this way works for me. Then we start with the CLA 2A, just standard settings, just whack it on, control a bit of the overall volume of the vocal.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past. To take a look and read a book.
So that's really just pushing back on some of the more boomy and louder parts, we're still quite a way off from this sounding like a good mixed vocal at this point. Then we head down to the vocal bus, so we're just sending it with just a normal bus going down to this one here. So a lot of the heavy lifting here is going through this SSL channel, the Waves one that everyone in the world seems to have, because it just does what you want it to do, and it's very flexible. So when I first started mixing, I was very intimidated by something like this. So many numbers, so many knobs. I didn't have a clue what any of them did really. I had a rough idea, but gradually it started to demystify itself. But for years I would just put a parametric EQ next to it, and I would just gauge it from that. So I could see, oh, that's a filter and that's a filter, and okay, that's what it's doing visually. Oh, and that's the high frequencies boosting all the way up to 16k, and that's the how much gain to give those frequencies. So what I've done here, just to have a visual picture of what I did with this SSL, is I've matched all of the EQ settings on this parametric. So everything I've done here, I've matched here to show what it actually visually looks like. So if we listen with and then without this bunch of EQ here, so this is without.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past.
And this is with.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past. To take a look.
So we're getting rid of a lot of this boominess that's going on down here at sort of 355 hertz. There's a lot of nasal boominess, and then filtering sort of 83, so cutting the very, very low end and then dipping here at sort of 100 as well. So all of this area here is where the boom is happening. Eventually, when I started to really understand EQ, it helped me to think of it like this is the battleground that we're waging war in. We go from, all the way down from 20 hertz all the way up to 20k, and this is kind of like standard human hearing. So within this is the potential to make things sound, to fix problems and to make things sound better, to emphasize the bits you want and to pull back on the things you don't want. And we're not doing any like humongous moves here. It's kind of like 3 dB, 4 dB. That's still quite a lot for a vocal, but it's just what it needed. So we've got the boom removed down here at the bottom, which was just that nasally boom, and then we're kind of boosting in the mid-range here a bit. And later on I'll show you what I'm doing with the high end, because I'm using another plugin for that. But again, we'll just do a quick A-B comparison, so without any EQ.
Light bounces off my glass.
And then with EQ.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past.
So then we move into a bit of limiting. I've just got the classic Universal Audio 1176, super fast attack, super fast release, 20-1. So anything that hits it is just going to be dipping down a bit. And this is really doing a lot of work in the choruses. We get into double tracked vocals in the chorus.
I like drinking, bit of smoking, I like dancing alone under the sun and
So that's doing more there. Right, and then after that 1176, I felt like it still wasn't doing enough. There wasn't enough compression happening. It was still a bit jumpy and bumpy. So another CLA 2A, I think just standard settings again, just squeezing it. This one is actually doing quite a lot. So if we listen without.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past.
And then with.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past. To take a look and read a book.
That one to me is the difference between this sounds okay to this is sounding way more like a fully mixed vocal now. Again, we'll do A-B just so you can really hear what's going on. So this is without it.
Light bounces off my glass.
And this is with it.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future.
It just does the gentle squash that it needs to start to just slot into the gap of where the vocal should be. And then finally, we've got the multiband happening here, and this is the high end that I'm boosting a little bit. Again, this isn't doing a huge amount, it's just touching. I'll just press play without it and then with it.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past.
And then with it.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past.
It's very subtle, and subtlety when I was in the beginning of mixing would drive me mad, because I'd be watching Pure Mix, I'd be watching some incredible mix engineer, and they'd say, here's A, here's B, and I would think, I can't hear the difference. I literally can't hear it. And the only way to move towards hearing the more subtle things is just by mixing 500 tracks. Like, that's really it. And then suddenly you start hearing it, and you start being able to make those really fine tweaks that don't do a huge amount. You know, without this it would still be fine. With it, to my ears, it just adds that tiny extra few percent of what I wanted it to do. Right, so next we're going to move into effects, and these are, again, they're not doing a huge amount, just subtle little things. So we start with this slap, which is the lovely EP34 Universal Audio tape delay, which is so characterful and awesome. You don't have to spend money on this one to get this result. I use the H delay from Waves for literally everything, but this one I just bought years and years ago, and so I use it. It's like the Radiohead Karma Police delay. So let's have a listen with it and then without it. I'll crank it so you can hear what it's doing.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past. To take a look.
It's a very short delay, so it's 80 milliseconds, and I believe the kind of classic slapback happens between sort of 90 and 120 milliseconds. So this really is adding just a bit of space for the vocal. It kind of helps to push it back and just adds that little bit extra character. And then we're moving into the Dimension D, another Universal Audio, this one. It's like a chorus plugin. Very subtle effect. I'll just press play with.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past. To take a look and
So that's what it does. It helps to spread that vocal out a bit, just to make it a slight more stereo feel to it. And it's not much. It's just like that tiny touch that we're using there. And then we've got what I call the Office, which is the classic favorite D-verb, 201 milliseconds, very tight room reverb. I'll just show you what that sounds like.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past. To take a look.
So we combine all of those.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past. To take a look.
So to me, I'm so happy when I get to this point, and we haven't used a huge amount of plugins. I'm sure some mix engineers could do it with less, but I'm always, for a track like this, I'm always chasing that lovely naturalistic sounding vocal. I don't want something that's too hyped, that's got all that high end cranked. A lot of a lot of pop music has that. I'm not as into that. This to me is more of a indie pop track. I want it to be more natural sounding, have a bit more warmth to it. So if we just play this vocal with the guitar, and then we can really hear how awesome Toby is.
Light bounces off my glass and shines brighter than my future and my past. To take a look and read a book and make a list of the things that the demons took. All I need is a small excuse. If I had less.
And so much of it comes from Toby being awesome as well. That's, I mean, getting a good take, doing loads of takes, getting a really good performance. You could hear from the beginning the sound of the vocal wasn't actually incredible in terms of like my end, where I placed the mic, where I put Toby in the room. We managed to fix those things. I was really happy with where we got to, this lovely naturalistic sounding vocal. And then when we get into the choruses, production moves that I did with Toby is just to double track everything for the choruses, and then we started to bang in all of these harmonies, which are really interesting and add so much. It is one of Toby's superpowers. He is incredibly good with harmonies. If I just play you this one, because this is particularly awesome.
I like drinking, bit of smoking. I like dancing alone under the sun, and I see double of the same thing. I'll be drinking double what I should be.
I mean, that's the brilliance of someone who can really layer vocal harmonies well. If we listen to this one.
I like drinking, a bit of smoking. I like dancing alone under the sun, and I see double of the same thing. I'll be drinking double what I should be.
Just brilliant. And with all of these harmonies, I was surprised looking back at this session, I didn't actually do anything to them at all, like in terms of mixing. They're just straight in, sounded good. They sound muffled, but I found that was really working with this slightly more hyped lead vocal track.
I like drinking, a bit of smoking. I like dancing alone under the sun, and I see double of the same thing.
Something that's worth mentioning quickly, because it's just fun, is we did this lovely little subtle beatbox thing that Toby did with a reverse breath, and I just think it added so much to that intro. We hear that in the track.
Light bounces off my glass, it shines brighter than my future.
The vocal breath just helps to propel you into the next section, and yeah, that was a little detail that we were both really happy with. So let's move into guitar now. Toby is an amazing guitarist as well as being a great singer-songwriter. His right hand has so much flavour and groove and rhythm in it. If we just listen to the chorus guitar here quickly. Just so cool, so cool. And my drum production brain just explodes for that, because you can hear all of the rhythms for the whole track are kind of baked in to his right hand and how he's playing this. I'll get to the drums and the guitar in a minute, but we'll just quickly look at what processing was on the guitar. So if we take this off, this is the multiband compression. The guitar just ends up sounding a little bit boomy without it. And then put it on. Without it. With it.
The same thing, I'll be drinking double what I should be.
So again, it's diagnosing the problems that you can hear. The process of being able to hear the problems is the work that I've found. It's hearing that sounds boomy. I think that's probably, 100 hertz range to 200. How do we deal with that? Let's try an EQ. Okay, that didn't do it as good a job. Let's try the multiband compressor. So you were just compressing that frequency range. Okay, that sounded better. So like step 1, step 2, step 3. There was a time where that would take me, an hour to do that, but you whittle it down to it being able to take you 5 minutes. And that's where the power comes in just mixing a lot and just keeping on going, keeping on pushing through the painful beginnings of mixing. So if we just move into some drums and bass. So all my red tracks here are my drums. We've got the classic egg shaker, which is this one here. And I probably would have started with that egg shaker and his guitar. And then expanded that by just starting to find correct samples and dropping them in and cutting them up and moving them around. With drum production, I'll just listen to the main rhythmical element of the song before any drums are in. In this case, it was Toby's guitar, and just tap away, and record my tappings. Sometimes it's just tapping on an egg shaker, and just really starting to try and hear how you can make a rhythm connect and dance around that guitar and add to it. Jump in and fill the gaps where he's pulling back, and get out of the way when he's hitting or pushing forwards. Drum production is something I absolutely love to do. And I usually work like this often, just pulling samples in, pitching them around, volume up and down, just searching forever on Splice for snares and kicks. This snare is particularly awesome.
I'll be drinking double what I should.
So then if we move to the bass is my lovely Moog grandmother. Again, it's an expensive way to get a bass tone. You can get a bass tone out of literally most synth plugins, and it would probably sound quite similar to this. I love having the hands-on connection with that synth because you can do cool stuff. For this, it just works really well.
Alone under the sun, and I see double of the same thing. I'll be drinking double what I should be.
And then really the rest of the track is just production. The core elements of the mix are in. We've got the bass, we've got the acoustic guitar, electric guitars, the vocals are sitting nicely, and then it's just me and Toby working together for hours and hours and hours, trying to fill in gaps and sprinkle in interesting bits of instrumentation. For example, we've got a lovely keyscape Wurlitzer that comes in.
Cold to me, it's just the same thing. I'll have a taste, don't wanna waste. I'll buy a case 'cause
And then in the middle section, we've got all kinds of madness coming in here. We've got loads of strings, pianos. We've just got this very odd kind of middle 8 section where all of this happens. So I believe I just started to do more film composition stuff, and you can hear that sneaking through in this middle 8 using the Olaf Arnold strings there, and some more kind of big, more grand piano, dramatic piano stuff down here. Other than that, I think we've got some synths that come in and out. Again, it's the Moog Grandmother with lots of Studio Dimension D on them. I think these are pretty cool and add quite a bit. So this was such a privilege to work on this track with Toby, and every now and again an artist, a song comes along and you just gel so well. Often it's because you have corresponding skills. I'm not much of a singer-songwriter. I can play guitar, I can play instruments, but Toby just had all of the finesse, and he's just such an accomplished singer and so accomplished at what he does. And personality wise, we just got on really well, which made every bit of this process so enjoyable, so much fun. That's all you can really hope for, I guess. I hope there's information within this that could help you along your mixing or production journey. And if anyone wants any further breakdowns on particular sections, then I'd be more than happy to do so. I'm going to be doing more of these mix breakdowns because I have a whole catalogue of music to get through with different examples for different tips and tricks. So hopefully I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys.